Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. The US government decided to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment to ensure national security. However, this seemingly simple decision revealed a complex and multifaceted story. In reality, implementing this plan requires not only technical support, but also a large amount of financial investment. In fact, the US government found itself paying an additional $3.1 billion for this decision, leaving Treasury Secretary Yellen speechless. So, is the United States' move to suppress Huawei and ZTE worth it? Huawei and ZTE did not collapse after being sanctioned. Instead, they spawned technological innovation and intensified the economic pressure on the United States. The need to re-examine China policy has become a top priority. Only by finding a balance between national security and economic development can the United States move forward more steadily and further. Decision-making and practical challenges of the U.S. government. The U.S. government's removal of equipment from Chinese companies such as Huawei and ZTE in communication networks is based on considerations of safeguarding national security. However, as the implementation plan progresses, challenges and problems gradually surface. Dismantling equipment is not only a technical job, but also an activity that requires huge financial support. The original budget shortfall required the United States to pay an additional $3.1 billion, which caused huge trouble to U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen. Whether the U.S. move is feasible remains to be further considered and evaluated. 1. The dual challenges of technical dismantling and financial support. When it first decided to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment, the U.S. government may not have anticipated the challenges this process would face. The first is the complexity of technical demolition, which not only requires relevant professionals and technical support, but also requires time and cost. At the same time, the financial aspect is also a huge hidden danger. The original budget was insufficient, but now an additional $3.1 billion is needed, highlighting the economic risks of this decision. This also puts Yellen in a dilemma as Treasury Secretary. The U.S. government needs to carefully weigh the pros and cons and find a balance between national security and economic burden to ensure the feasibility of this policy. 2. Huawei and ZTE's resistance to pressure and technological innovation. It is worth mentioning that Chinese companies such as Huawei and ZTE have not fallen due to U.S. sanctions. On the contrary, they have led the development of a series of technological fields by increasing investment in independent research and development and innovation. Especially in fields such as 5G, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things, the technological innovations of these companies have spurred the entire industry to develop in a more independent and controllable direction. The United States originally hoped to safeguard national security by suppressing these companies, but the result was exactly the opposite. This also makes people have to think about whether this U.S. policy is really worth it and whether it can really achieve the expected results. While protecting national security, we cannot ignore the importance of technological development and sustained economic growth. Internal and external conflicts brought about by U.S. policies. The U.S. government's decision to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment not only affects domestic economic and technological development, but also causes quite a stir on the international stage. The internal and external contradictions brought about by this decision have put the United States into a dilemma when facing real problems. Compared with the smooth progress expected in the past, implementing this plan requires more investment and effort, which has led many people to question the decision-making of the U.S. government. At the same time, this action may also have a profound impact on international relations, especially the cooperation and competition between the United States and China. 1. Domestic and foreign public opinion are suspicious. The U.S. government's decision to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment has triggered different voices and suspicions at home and abroad. Some people in China believe that this move may bring economic risks, affect trade relations with China, and also cause instability in domestic communication networks. On the international stage, this decision has also attracted attention and controversy from all parties. Some allies may follow the lead of the United States, but some countries have begun to review their own communication network equipment and have reservations about the United States' move. Especially in the fields of 5G technology and network security, the United States' rejection of China may have a wider impact. This internal and external contradiction requires the U.S. government to be more prudent and thorough in its decision-making and implementation. 2. A helpless choice under financial pressure. Faced with the $3.1 billion in expenditures required to implement the plan to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment, U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen seems to be stuck in an unsolvable dilemma. The U.S. government is facing financial pressure and limited resources. Especially under the circumstances of limited finances, increasing investment in this plan will undoubtedly bring greater challenges to the government. This also makes people question whether the U.S. government has fully evaluated and prepared for previous decisions. In the current era of economic and technological development, whether fiscal expenditures are worthwhile and whether they can bring about the expected effects are worthy of in-depth thinking and discussion. The need to re-examine China policy, especially the internal and external challenges and dilemmas faced in the implementation of the decision to dismantle Huawei and ZTE equipment. We should find a balance between national security and economic development to avoid falling into deeper economic difficulties. Only by handling relations with China in a more pragmatic and cooperative manner can we achieve win-win results and common development for both parties. Life is inherently difficult, and the United States should pay more attention to internal issues, respect facts, and make prudent decisions. On the road to scientific and technological development, open cooperation is the better choice, which is also in line with the trend of today's world.